was there. Air Force police, called them security police, were there, and they came in when the security police came. They weren't in the room, the security police. They were on the outside of the room,
right?
Because they weren't cleared. But when they got into the room, the entities, these creatures, the Nordics, left.
Security police witnessed this.
The security police didn't actually witness the attack, but they obviously witnessed the injuries that weren't caused by anybody in the room. I mean, these were catastrophic injuries. You can't rip off an arm. A human can't rip off an arm.
Now, there's a belief that, based on studying the Anunnaki, that they are coming back. So can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, in all the texts, they always say that they're going to return. The reason why they left was there was a pyramid war. It was the second pyramid war. Amun-Ra, also known as Marduk. You can look up Marduk's name in the Torah. He's in the Bible. He's in the Sumerian tablets. These guys everywhere. He's Amun-Ra. He started a war.
Welcome back to the coolest channel on YouTube. Yeah, we got a crazy lineup for y'all here today. Just do me one favor. Go ahead and smash that like button because y'all already know how lit these videos get, man. But look, hopefully y'all been having a good day. Just know that we're going through this thing called life together. You can always bounce back. But let's hop into this video, y'all.
The ice wall.
The cameraman who made this picture, I want to give full credit. They did not hesitate to risk their lives at their job. And now first, I want to tell you briefly the difference between the top and the bottom of the world. Now, the North Pole is the center of a deep ocean, whereas the South Pole is the center of a high plateau which averages 7,000 or 8,000 feet in altitude. Many species of flowers can be found at Etah, whereas around the South Pole, except for some very primitive plants, there is no life whatever beyond the edge of the continent. It is cold and silent and dead. There are no Eskimo. It is too cold for human beings to live there permanently. In fact, the only permanent resident is the emperor penguin, and he doesn't go beyond the edge of the continent. In fact, the only permanent resident is the emperor penguin, and he doesn't go beyond the edge of the continent. Go beyond the edge of the continent. At the top of the world.
Message.
An island in the Andaman chain called North Sentinel Island.
The 39 people that are direct descendants of people who left Africa 60,000 years ago.
We don't know if there's 39 or 300. They kill everybody who lands there, essentially.
Yeah.
An English person buggered them, which is why they don't want anyone landing. There actually are some very weird videos where we throw them coconuts because coconuts don't occur in their island, and we actually have non-hostile contact. But the most important part of it is India. They do not know that they are claimed by something called India. And they don't know that they have a Fermi problem because India won't let anyone land unless they break the law. So the great filter of North Sentinel Island is a model for why don't we see anybody? Does India exist at some sort of UFO level?
If you didn't know already, the US government is releasing the truth in a lot of their patents and documents that they have on their website. CIA, NASA, doesn't really matter. They're kind of admitting the truth. Here's a list here of every year that a US patent was released on how to control the weather. Feel free to search any of these patents up. Here's 3 documents from NASA admitting the Earth is flat and non-rotating. The DPS equations of motion use 4 assumptions that simplify the program while maintaining its fidelity for most maneuvers and applications: point mass modeling, non-turbulent atmosphere, zero-side forces, and a non-rotating Earth. This report documents the derivation and definition of a linear aircraft model for a rigid aircraft of constant mass flying over a flat, non-rotating Earth. Last one. The model frequently used is that of a flat, non-rotating Earth. But these new documents that I found last night on the CIA's website is gonna surprise you probably. Photographic observations of the spectral intensity of the firmament. The spectral brightness of the firmament along the alsocanter of the sun was observed. Here's a document, the color temperature of the firmament. Investigation on the zodiacal light, provisional results obtained by the observation of the Soviet expedition in Egypt of the diurnal firmament can attain up to 70%. Okay, so you're admitting it. There is a hard, fast barrier above us, and it's not called the Van Allen belts, just like the science community is trying to perpetuate now. They're trying to say that there's an impenetrable barrier in the sky, but it's not the firmament. It's the Van Allen belt. No, it's the firmament. They tell you the truth in the patents, in the papers, in the documents. They just hope that you won't go reading them. Me, I'm gonna continue reading these patents, and I'm gonna find the truth. I'm gonna keep exposing it, just like I'm doing on my podcast. If you want to check it out, link tree in my bio. We talk about a lot of things that could never talk about on here.
Hey, you know what's crazy though about this whole thing is, like, look, believe what you want to believe. Do your own research, people. I'm not trying to convince y'all of nothing, but what I will say is go out here. And you know how some people, bro, you can have such a strong position. The earth is round. You know how some people be, look, y'all can fight amongst yourselves if y'all want to. I don't want to fight with you. I'm cool. Like, it ain't that deep for me. Because at the end of the day, we're all in this motherfucker together, right? Like I say in the beginning of my damn videos. Like, it's crazy. But, you know, just do your own research. Don't let these things drive you crazy, because at the end of the day, it is what it is. That's all I'm gonna say. That's wild, though.
In the clouds?
Hey, like that movie Nope. You know what I'm saying? They up there. You feel me? Like, and then what we've been seeing lately, all everywhere. We hip.
There is a fly on the outside of the space station.
Yeah, this, you know, in space. Just in space.
I'm a fly, I'm a fly. I'm a fly. I'm a fly. And I connive and I strive. And I eat the pizza pie.
Took a photo of a 1 mile long object called Castle, which is at the height of 14 kilometers and casts a distinct shadow on the lunar surface. The object seems to consist of several cylindrical units and a large conjunctive unit. The internal porous structure of the castle is clearly seen in one of the pictures, which gives the impression that some parts of the object are transparent. As it turned out at the briefing where many NASA scientists were present, when Richard Hoagland had requested originals of the Castle pictures for the second time, no pictures were found at all. They disappeared, even from the list of pictures made by the Apollo 10 crew. Only intermediate images of the object were found in the archives, which unfortunately don't depict the object's internal structure.
We did go to the moon, but some of the footage, it doesn't make sense because the flag is moving. Now the reason for that, and this is where people say we didn't go to the moon, it was all hoax and filmed in a basement up in New York. The truth is we went, but during the lunar orbiter, going back before the Apollo mission, We actually were circling the Earth taking the first early digital photographs. And as you know from the testimony of Disclosure Project witness Carl Wolf, there were structures on the moon that were artificial. Some were newer and some were very ancient. And so they knew the covert programs, and these images were being downloaded to out here at Langley, not the CIA headquarters, Langley Air Force Base, to a compartmented operation run by the National Security Agency that was then sequestered away from the other NASA scientists. But the people running that project, the deep black people in those projects, knew that it was likely we were going to encounter something not of this world or a UFO when we landed. Therefore, they had filmed some footage that they could splice in if something started happening. So during the live transmission, if something started happening, there's a delay that went through this National Security Agency filter, and they could immediately, instantly put in. And that's why there's a couple frames where the American flag is moving. Well, there's no atmosphere on the moon, okay? Which was the one mistake they made in that whole plan. That's the telltale giveaway.
When the Apollo 12 crew landed on the lunar surface, they saw that the landing was observed by a half-transparent pyramidal object. It was hovering just several meters above the lunar surface and shimmered with all the rainbow colors against the black sky. In 1969, when the film about astronauts traveling to the Sea of Storms was demonstrated, the astronauts saw the strange objects once again, which were later called striped glasses. NASA finally understood what consequences such kind of control could bring.
Hey, so this brings deeper questions, right? So what is it really? Does the moon have an atmosphere or does it not? Are we traveling and breaking through the firmament, or are we going through the ocean, through portals? You know, that's questions for you to get out here and do your own research on. I have findings, but you know, you already got other people out here doing breakdown videos and very in depth. Maybe someday I would do that, but you know, it's already a lane for people, and I don't want to really be stepping on people's lane. You feel me? But at the same time, man, I'm communicating y'all in a different way, and we're asking real questions. And you know, like in the comments down below, like I say, if y'all want y'all voices to be heard, want me to see y'all, I see y'all down in the comments down below. Those are the hieroglyphs. When people look back, they see the amazing discussions that we have on this channel right here. But look, let's keep going though.
From Mark Cameron. This is from Mark Cameron.
Whilst in space, have you ever looked away from Earth into the black void?
Because you can see, because you can see the stars.
Oh yeah.
You know, and pretty much all the time you can see the stars.
The sky is deep black when viewed from the moon, as it is when viewed from cislunar space, the space between the Earth and the moon. The Earth is the only visible object other than the sun that.
With some military officers, could you tell us anything about that?
This is a horrible incident that happened at Bowling Air Force Base in the 80s. A group of officers, general officers, colonels, and I think a couple of generals were in a meeting in a secure area of Bowling Air Force Base. And it was they weren't discussing anything to do with UFOs. They were just there talking about highly classified other projects.
That's down the street from my old base. I worked at Andrews. Yeah, Bowling, right down the street.
When suddenly these strange-looking creatures came through the walls, as told by a couple of the survivors, and they started mutilating and attacking these general officers. Several of their officers suffered very serious injuries, and some of them died. They were after the equipment that was in this room, and the strange thing about it, the equipment they were after was overhead viewers and things like that, a slide presentation machine and a 60 millimeter projector. And nobody seemed to know why and why they would want those items. But these officers were mutilated. Some of them had a.
In what way? Through hand-to-hand combat, or
they were
weapons?
attacking him with their own hands. They were putting the aliens were putting their hands through the bodies. They were tearing off limbs. There was one lieutenant colonel that lost both arms. There was a general that suffered severe injuries that caused him to be paralyzed, so he had to be medically discharged. There were others. Now there were security forces there. Air Force police, called security police, were there, and they came in when the security police came. They weren't in the room, the security police. They were on the outside of the room,
right?
Because they weren't cleared. But when they got into the room, the entities, these creatures, the Nordics, left.
Did the security police witness this?
The security police didn't actually witness the attack, but they obviously witnessed the injuries that weren't caused by anybody in the room. I mean, these were catastrophic injuries. You can't rip off an arm. A human can't rip off an arm or rip off their own arm. And these arms, arms and leg, I think there was a leg or an ankle or something that was ripped off. Doctors said later that somebody with a huge amount of force would have to rip off an arm from the shoulder. And so I don't believe any of the security forces actually saw it happen. But there were other people that weren't injured in the room. There was a master sergeant that was the projector operator, and there was some other people, there were enlisted people in the room that were aides or something. They weren't injured. It was just the officers that were injured.
So they watched this. Did they get any film of this going on?
No, I don't believe there was any film.
So there was how many survivors?
I think there was 8 survivors.
Out of 12?
8 or 9 survived. I think 2 died and the rest survived. I believe 1 died sometime later, but I don't know the exact numbers. I don't remember the exact numbers. OSI from Andrews Air Force Base went over there and investigated this, and that was really highly classified. I believe it still is classified. I haven't heard. I heard one other person mentioning this story, and that was Wendell Stevens, the late Wendell Stevens, who was a prominent figure within the UFO community that would speak at most all UFO conferences in Laughlin or other places in the United States. Wendell had more details about it because Wendell actually interviewed one of the survivors.
Oh, wow.
What did he say?
It's November 14th, 2004. About 100.
But just think about that, though, man. Think about that. Like, that was right down the street, though, for me. Like, if they would have, bruh, look, I ain't gonna hold you. I ain't even gonna hold y'all. I'm gonna keep it a buck with y'all. That was like my line of work, right? If they would have called me in that room after hearing that they getting their arms ripped off and stuff, hey, let me know in the comments down below. Hey, what's my answer to that, y'all? If y'all know me on this channel, they be like, hey, come in the room. Ooh, arms ripped. You feel me? Absolutely not. I'm not going, bro. Like that's above me. That's above me. You ripping arms off and shit. I'm cool. I don't want no smoke.
100 miles off the coast of San Diego, California. The USS Nimitz, one of the US Navy's largest aircraft carriers, is preparing for deployment.
Meet Leavenworth.
But the radar technicians aboard noticed something weird. The military report from that day says that they noticed, quote, multiple objects descending from around 60,000 feet down to 50 feet in a matter of seconds. Very high velocity. 60,000 feet. A reminder that commercial airplanes fly at like 36,000 feet. The report goes on to say that these objects, quote, hover for a short time and depart at super high velocities with, quote, advanced acceleration capabilities. At first, these radar techs thought that their fancy new radar system was messed up, so they recalibrated the radar, but the signal remained. Something was up here.
They're telling us they have a contact on their radar. They don't know what it is. They just have a blip. Well, they've been watching these things, and what he told me is they had been looking at these things as we're driving. He says, sir, we've been tracking these things for about 2 weeks. We had been at sea for 2 weeks. He goes, this is the first time we've had planes airborne. We want you to go see what these are.
So they sent out 2 FA-18s to investigate. The report from that day describes a day of blue skies, no clouds, and unlimited visibility. These 2 Navy pilots arrived to the scene, each with a weapons officer in the back. They look around and notice something strange in the water below.
So as we're looking down off the right side, the backseater in the other airplane, Jim, he says, "Hey, Skipper, do you?" And that's about what he gets out of his mouth. And I go, "What the hell is that?"
It looks as if some cross-shaped object the size of a massive airplane is submerged right underneath the surface of the water. And above it, it appears to be boiling.
That's crazy.
And just above the boiling water, an object is hovering.
You look at Christopher Columbus, in his actual captain's log, something comes up out of the ocean, a gigantic bright light comes up out of the ocean. Now think about this, you're talking about the 1400s, right? There's no light pollution. You only write down things in the captain's log that are important. So something came, yes, that's an anomaly. What is coming up with, there's no light bulbs back then. So what is it that came out of the ocean by the ship that can light up the sky?
Hey, look, y'all know when I was in Japan when those lights, when the tsunamis and stuff hit Japan and everything, I was living in Japan at the time, and it was videos surfacing on the internet at the time, and it was lights that came up out of the water before all the calamity and stuff happened. But yeah, it's just a cool little fact. And the videos that were posted on YouTube at the time, they got wiped. They got taken out immediately, like after like a couple hours of them circulating, they took them off the internet.
Elon Musk, it does not make any sense that the Great Pyramid of Giza was the tallest building in the world for thousands of years until the completion of the Lincoln Cathedral in England in the 14th century AD. According to Graham Hancock, technologies that they have found inside pyramids are far more advanced than what Egyptians had found 4,500 years ago. According to Randall Carlson, location and structure of pyramids require such advanced mathematics and building technologies that the idea that Egyptians built pyramids are nonsensical. So people have many questions about pyramids for sure. For example, how were the pyramids aligned so perfectly with the stars and other celestial bodies without the help of modern technology? Why are there depictions of flying machines and other advanced technologies in ancient Egyptian hieroglyphics, if such technologies were not available to humans at that time? How did the ancient Egyptians possess knowledge of mathematics, engineering, and astronomy that was far beyond their time? Why do the pyramids and other ancient structures around the world share similarities in design and construction if they were built by different cultures and civilizations? And we can continue on and on.
Now, there's a belief that based on studying the Anunnaki that they are coming back. So can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, in all the texts, they always say that they're going to return. The reason why they left was there was a pyramid war. It was a second pyramid war. Amun-Ra, also known as Marduk. You can look up Marduk's name in the Torah. He's in the Bible. He's in the Sumerian tablets. These guys everywhere. He's Amun-Ra. He started a war because he wanted to extend his kingship. He wanted to take over kingship in other areas that he wasn't supposed to on the planet, so forth, so on. So that war was nuclear. The reason why you know it's nuclear because it specifically says that their nails were falling out, their hair was falling out, blood was coming out of their eyes. This is radiation sickness. And that war is what really caused them to want to flee. In one of the tablets, Enki goes to Anu and says, "Can you please stop the evil wind?" That's what they call it. That's nuclear fallout. He's like, "There's nothing I can do." And so he told him, like, "Turn around, man, get in that ship. We got to get out of here because this thing is coming." And they said that that evil wind covered the land and killed all the animals, the people, and everything else. And a lot of these people never came back. But they said that they'll be coming back and take back claim of the rightful kingship of this planet.
You gotta think though, when they said they coming back and they're gonna take the rightful kingship of this planet, like, see, a lot of people sometimes, you know, you get the wrong idea. You think when they come here, you're gonna be a king or this and that. No, they're speaking about themselves. Like, that's just how I interpret it. Look, let me know how y'all feel in the comments down below, man. Shit ain't always sweet. You know, like just like the Ijiji, they had a race called the Ijiji where they had them mining and doing all the heavy lifting and all the work, and then they revolted against the Anunnaki, and then at some point, you know, got shit resolved, and then they came up with us. So what do y'all think is happening with us? What do y'all think we are? Workers, slaves. That's just the way I see it.
Mainstream historians will tell you that the Great Pyramid of Giza was a glorified tomb for the Egyptian pharaohs. The only monument left of the original 7 wonders of the world, this structure was created with impeccable mathematical precision and is a unique, mysterious feat of construction and of engineering. There's only one problem. The Great Pyramid has none of the characteristics of tombs, including extravagant artifacts, ornate wall art, sealed entrances, elaborate coffins, or even mummies themselves. It was, however, built with unique materials, the same materials that are used today for electrical conductivity. These facts are leading more and more historians to believe the pyramids may have had a far more useful purpose. The Pyramid of Giza was not at all a tomb, but a power plant, generating and transmitting electricity to the civilization surrounding it. Impossible? To start, it's important to comprehend the tremendous effort that went into creating these monuments. The Pyramids of Giza are among no less than 118 of these structures in Egypt alone, and that doesn't even include those pyramids in other parts of the world. Given our current understanding of how early civilizations built their monuments, it would have taken no less than 20 years to build these so-called tombs, and that's if no less than 20,000 workers worked daily. To this day, historians still can't prove exactly how or when they were built. This leads us to ask, what resting place for the dead could possibly be so important that it would warrant such phenomenal effort, time, and precise engineering? Even without knowing that they have nothing in common with regular tombs, you only need to stand before them to realize that's a lot of work for a cadaver. Naturally, we make conclusions based on the assumption that ancient civilizations were more primitive than us. But what if intellectual evolution isn't always linear? Can advanced technology be lost and rediscovered centuries later? Is it possible that an ancient culture had knowledge of and used electrical power? To know for sure, let's look at another case where technology of power generation appears to have been used and then forgotten. We know Edison and Tesla brought electricity into common use moving into the 20th century. Yet, in Iraq in 1934, 3 artifacts were found together: a ceramic pot, a tube of copper, and a rod of iron, which, when combined with a liquid acid, can
What y'all think that is, man? It's batteries. Like, this shit
be
crazy.
used to create chemical reactions that produce an electrical charge. Known as the Baghdad or Parthian battery, these materials date back 2,000 years. 10 years after their discovery, someone using grape juice with similar materials successfully generated a few volts of electricity. This process has since been demonstrated on the Discovery Channel's program Mythbusters, where lemon juice activated the electrochemical reaction between the copper and the iron, producing 4 volts of electricity. Nowadays, you can simply search online to find instructions on how to create your own battery using these chemical principles. But historians have long assumed that thousands of years ago there was no knowledge of this technology, that this archaeological find is mere coincidence, even though we've long marveled over artifacts with intricate gold plating, which requires electricity to be created. Quite simply, energy generation happens as a result of simple chemical properties and can be done by anyone with 4 basic materials. So, here are some important facts about the structure and the materials of the pyramid. For starters, it contains angled tunnels which lead not only into the pyramid but deep underground to areas claimed still to be unexplored. What tomb needs a shaft directed into the earth? We also know that centuries ago there were enormous swivel doors that weighed no less than 20 tons, but miraculously it was so well engineered it could be moved to enter with a push of a hand. Since no Egyptian tomb has ever been found to be deliberately accessible, what was their interest in continuing to visit the mummies, or could such a door have served the purpose of perhaps containing and insulating the space inside? Though you'd almost never know it, the Great Pyramids of Giza were once covered in white polished limestone, referred to as casing stones. The cuts made in this reflective stone were angled perfectly, so it would have a smooth, flat appearance. This would have made the giant structures brightly reflect the light of the sun like a mirror. It also would have made perfect insulation inside the structure. A large earthquake in 1303 disrupted the casing stones, and they were removed to use on other structures. Today, all that remains is the inner core of the pyramid. The image of the incredible amount of light that would have reflected from the monument raises curiosity, as does the reason for the insulation. Was there a desire to draw attention to their dead? To keep mummies warm or cool, or perhaps something else? Next, the material, dolomite, was used on the inner surfaces. Dolomite is known to increase electrical conductivity directly relative to the amount of pressure on it. High pressure creates more electrical current.
And look, y'all, I want y'all to really, like, some people, you know, I know some of y'all will want to skip through something like this, but this is very interesting. I think that you should pay attention just in case. And I always try to get y'all prepared, man, and make sure y'all do your own research too as well, that you know how at the end of the day, you don't have to depend on anybody for power, for energy, for, you know, whatever you need. If the grid was to ever go down or something catastrophic was ever to happen, I would want, you know, people to be able to take care of themselves and their families, you know. So create batteries for yourself, or at least have the knowledge to know how if things were to go wrong. You always have to have a contingency plan, you know.
Next, lining the passageways and underground tunnels of the pyramids is granite, which is slightly radioactive. Granite contains high amounts of quartz crystal with metal, and it's a well-known conductor of piezoelectricity. Piezoelectricity occurs as a result of stress or pressure on the quartz, as demonstrated by the wristwatches, which can be charged simply by rapidly shaking them. This granite actually ionizes the air inside the pyramid, creating a chemical reaction which, again, increases the conductivity of electricity. When such electrons are given the chance to bypass sections of rock via metal wire, quite large currents
like a beam.
can flow. Another important material used to construct them is the mysterious mortar, 500,000 tons of it, which holds the giant stones in place. Though it's been analyzed many times, modern technology has yet to exactly recreate this gypsum, which comes from sediment. This gypsum can withstand tremendous pressure, and astoundingly is even stronger than the stones themselves.
So if you do a rewind on the geological clock of Giza, you find out that the Nile ran right up next to the pyramids. Now, when you take magnetized crystal granite, which is the base, and you use running water underneath it, you create physiostatic electricity. Then the granite will pull the ions up into the pyramid, send them up the Grand Gallery. Now, the Grand Gallery has these slots on each side. They could have been resonating rods, something to step up the electricity as it went up into the King's Chamber. In the King's Chamber, here's what's interesting. There's a box in there that they try to say it's a sarcophagus. It's not a sarcophagus. I'm 6'4". I can't fit in that box. You see what a real sarcophagus is. These things are massive, not this little tiny box. The box is the exact dimensions, though, of the Ark of the Covenant. The Ark of the Covenant used to sit inside of that box. It was technology. It was a capacitor. And that would then give the extra boost and send the electricity up through the apex, where there was a gold capstone. The obelisk, which are magnetized crystal granite, would capture that ambient wireless electricity and then pass it on to what they call jed pillars. They had these jeds. They're depicted in many hieroglyphs, people holding them and connecting them to light bulbs and electroplating devices in hieroglyphs, which I took everybody to go see.
If she got the flu for 14 days, she's as protected as anybody can be, because the best vaccination is to get infected yourself. She definitely doesn't need a flu vaccine. She doesn't need it because it's the most potent vaccination is getting infected yourself.
We're like the only race of people that they tell us to forget our history. Everybody else to be like, we're going to let you know so it doesn't repeat itself. Don't you forget that shit. That shit's not going to happen. Every other person. And then they'll all ask us to support them in their plight. They just want us to continue to entertain, give them creative ideas so they can steal all of that shit. We are the only motherfuckers that they tell to forget about our history. The shit is so disgusting.
It's disgusting.
When you go to a doctor's office, what's the first thing they do? They pull out your medical history.
Right.
Because we have to assess what is happening now. We got to look back and see, okay, let's see what happened. You were last time you were here, this happened.
Right.
That's how you're able to move forward. They don't use that same philosophy on African American or African history. We are so deeply hated. They hate us so much.
Right. It's so true.
And if they're not making money off of, if they're not benefiting sexually, monetarily, culturally, they don't think of us as human beings.
Using the Civil War to talk about black Americans, that war was not fought for black people to have guns. That's not.
That war was fought for black people to have freedoms in this country.
Yeah.
Actually, that's why the Civil War was fought.
Okay.
And the sad
but that
part
wasn't
about
fought for black people to have guns. I think.
Actually, you know, funny fact is, black people did not get to enjoy the other freedoms until their Second Amendment rights were secured. And I think that that's one of the lessons that we
still
learned.
aren't allowed to enjoy the freedoms.
I disagree with you on that, Don. I disagree with you. And I think you're doing a disservice to our country by failing to recognize.
Said our country, like, let's be real, doesn't belong to you.
The fact that we have equality before the law.
And you live in this country, then you can disagree with me, but we're not. You mentioned in here that
I
we have
disagree.
three different shades
Don, I
of
think we have to be
melanin
able to
here.
talk about these issues in the open, regardless of the color of our skin. Black Americans today, to say that, compare that to 1865 and 1964,
I think for you to compare it to
absolutely
1865 and
have equal rights in
1964
this
is
country.
actually, I think it's insulting to black people. It's insulting to me as an African American. I don't want to sit here and argue with you because it's infuriating for you to put those things together. It's not right. Your telling of history is wrong. What
part of the history was wrong, Don?
What part of the history was wrong? That the Civil War was fought. You're making people think that the Civil War was fought for black people, only for black people to get guns and for black people to have.
The Civil War was fought for black people in this country to get freedoms, a noble mission. And I think that even after we succeeded, we had to actually secure those freedoms.
To reduce it in a speech at the NRA to say you're making people think, or you're trying to say that black people to get guns, that was the reason that you're there at the NRA. That was the reason for the Civil War.
It is a
that's
fact.
reductive.
It's not
and
reductive,
I think it's
Don.
insulting. There are a whole plethora of reasons that for the Civil War.
With due respect, I find your explanation reductive and actually insulting, including to black Americans, to say that black people today, compared to 1964, 1865, haven't made progress in part because of the freedoms we secured. And the Second Amendment was
Black
part
people,
of what secured
hang on,
that
please.
freedom.
I cannot keep a thought if you guys are talking to me in my ear. So, hang on one second. So to say that black people, say what you said again.
Black people.
Don said, hey, get your ass out my ear. I ain't trying to hear that shit. He done crossed the line and I'm going to stand up on some shit. That's simply what that is, man. You know, when others get see, that's why it gets irritating. You know, like, this shit is stupid. Like, when other people feel like they can come and manipulate just for certain agendas, like to try to manipulate the mindsets of a certain people with bullshit. That's why I implore everybody, do your research, man. Figure out what the hell went on. And therefore, that's why I'm in a good place mentally. Everywhere, bro. I'm good because when you start to know and learn a lot about what really happened, it gives you more power. I don't hate nobody. I don't hate anybody. Well, maybe one person. They know who they are. But look, I'm good. You feel me? Like, I don't go around here looking at you, or you're white, or you're pink, or you're Asian, or you're purple, whatever you are, whatever you want to identify with. I don't give a damn, man, because I'm happy. See, therefore, you know, like, you can't let these things get to you. So we got to break this down strategically and really see what they're trying to do with these news channels. And then you see why Don Lemon, like, you know, why they got that man an axe, because he wasn't having it no more. But, you know, it is what it is, though.
People secured their freedoms after the Civil War. It is a historical fact, Don. Just study it. Only after their Second Amendment rights were secured.
They
That's
were
a
not
fact.
secured their freedoms after the Civil War. That is not, you are discounting Reconstruction. You're discounting a whole host of things that happened after the Civil War when it comes to African Americans, including the whole reason that the Civil Rights Movement happened is because black people did not secure their freedoms after the Civil War, and that things turned around. People tried to change the freedoms that were supposed to
And you know
happen
how they
after the
got
Civil
it?
War
They got their
and
Second Amendment
Reconstruction.
rights, and they actually got the NRA played a big role in that. But today, Don,
The NRA did not play a big role
absolutely,
in
they
that.
trained black Americans how to use firearms.
That's a lie. That's not. The NRA did not play a big role in
This
that.
is just historical fact.
It's
But
not
Don,
historical fact.
the part that I find
you say it's historical
the
fact.
part that
it's
I
not
find
historical
insulting is when you say today black Americans don't have those rights after we have gone through civil rights revolution in this country.
You are sitting here telling an African American about the rights and what you find insulting about the way I live, the skin I live in every day.
Here's where you and I have
the
a different
freedoms
point
that
of view.
black and white that black people don't have in this country, and that black people do have.
Well, here's where you and I have a different point of view. I think we should be able to express our views regardless of the color of our skin. We should have this debate
I'm not saying you
without
shouldn't
me
express your
regarding
views,
you as a
but I think
black
it's
man.
insulting that
but
you're
me
sitting
regarding you
here.
Your view. Do you get that? Listen to the words that this man used. Your view. Your view? Or The truth. Nigga.
As a fellow citizen,
That you're
that's what I
sitting
think we
here,
should see.
whatever ethnicity you are, explaining to me
Whatever ethnicity I'm,
about
I'll
what
tell
it's
you.
like to be black.
Whatever
in America.
ethnicity I'm, I'll tell you.
Hey, Don went having it. You know he mad, hey, when a nigga say explaining. Like when we start cutting words, bro, like, look, hey, we didn't had enough of you, bro.
You what I am. I'm an Indian American. I'm proud of it. But I think we should have this debate. Black, white doesn't matter.
I think we should have this
on
debate.
the content of the
If you're
ideas.
do it, you should do it in an honest way and in a fair way. And what you're doing is not an honest and fair way.
Facts.
Okay? But we appreciate you coming on.
With
Thank
due
you for
respect,
that.
Don, I look forward to
Thank you very
continuing
much.
that
I appreciate
conversation.
it. We'll
Thank
continue
you.
the conversation.
Thank you
so much.
Thank you, Papa.
We'll talk about China.
Yes, let's talk about China.
Time you come back.
Oh, thank you. Much to say on declaring independence from China.
Okay,
Something you
can
can
we
add
move
on
on now, please?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. In just hours, the man accused of leaking highly classified pen.
Hey, y'all. Hey, old boy was salty as hell, wasn't he? He was saltier than the bag of goddamn salt and vinegar potato chips, man. But look, it's whatever. But I think it's disgusting the way that these people come on here, bro, and love to speak about our shit, and it's not the truth at all. It's the furthest thing. They're trying to push certain agendas so they can have a certain demographic of people that watch a certain channel, so you can be indoctrinated with this BS that you've been indoctrinated with your whole life. And what they always said, man, if you want to hide something from a motherfucker, from a nigga, put it in a book. You know, so what would you do in this? Would you start reading? I don't even like to read, but if I want to know something, I'm gonna go ahead and read, bro. I'm gonna go ahead and discover. I'm gonna go ahead and truth check, not fact check, truth check. Because there's a difference between the fact and the truth. These facts that they have, bro, are complete bullshit. The facts that they, quote unquote, taught us when we were coming up. We all should be mad, no matter what color you are. We all should be angry because you all have been lied to. We've all been lied to, man, about everything. So what about these? We gotta really start reading and understanding what's really going on, because everybody's being manipulated. And once you start to break those chains of manipulation, you can see the world for what it really is. Just like the movie when the guy put on the sunglasses and stuff, and he can see what's really going on with the billboards and stuff. Like the movie that Roddy Piper was in. You know, it's crazy. It's really crazy out here. And you see people for who they really are, the monsters that they really are. But look, man, I think this was another amazing video, man. Make sure y'all share these videos with your friends and your families. And also, I want to just say this at the end of the day, man. They keep, a lot of people gonna get on it, oh, he's saying African American. Yeah, I know. Those are misnomers. Those are strangers' titles. We can't be from two different continents. Do y'all understand that? African and American? They over there in Africa saying that we not even from there either. We're not, bro. We're different people, but those are our cousins over there. All the people on this planet right here, man, we're all humanoids, and we might as well get the fuck along, because we're all stuck here inside of wherever we're stuck in, and that's what we need to be figuring out, because all we seem to do is get on the internet and find differences and fight. No, it'd be cool to discover everything about us as races, individuals, everything. Let's discover all at once, and let's get this thing on the road. But look, man, I appreciate y'all, man. And like I always say, spread love, because there's too much hate in this world. Love you guys. I'll see you in the next video, and I'm out, though. Bye.